the part, I guess, to me that's fun, is you can improvise as you go along. You don't have any set pattern. If we were making a scale model, it would be a lot more of a, well, you'd have a headache that it wasn't right. Laying it out, and then the worst that can happen with any ink is you can wipe it all off. You can get some M600 and wipe it all off. Now this gives me, I need to work off of the line to get a 90-degree line. I don't want to reference off of the fuselage. This will give me a point up here that I can connect to. And now I can lay out the first line of rivets connecting those 2 points. And one thing nice about doing ink work that I find is really nice is when you're all done, it adds a tremendous detail to the plane and absolutely no weight at all. You can ink the whole plane, it probably doesn't add 1 gram. But it also allows you another thing of laying out your ink work. If there's any mistakes you're trying to cover up, any bad spots, anything that you're really not happy with, it's a good way to disguise the errors. Now in this case, this ruler is 3/4 of an inch wide. So one of the choices I'll have is just to reverse the ruler, and I can run, by lining this up, I can then use this one to line this edge of rivets up. Now the last time I think on a Seafire, I spent 2 or 3 weeks doing this. Maybe 8 to 10 hours a day, so I don't know. Maybe it was 50 hours, I don't know. I'm afraid to admit how many hours it is. But this is one of the little modeling techniques that when you see a beautiful ink job, and I could name 100 of them, it really sets a model apart in a way that's just outstanding. As soon as that's a little bit dry, it just takes a little bit of technique to lay it out and a little bit of patience. I like to keep that. And obviously now the rest is redundant. I'm going to work my way out until the whole tail is riveted. If you try to do it by eye, yeah, it may work well up to a point, but nothing beats having them right on a ruler line. Just adds another little, even nicer dimension to the overall look. Now another thing, on a real airplane, the rivets aren't all equally spaced and they aren't all equally sized. Like ink lines, there can be some thick ones, some heavy duty ones, and the lighter ones would probably be out on the empennage, on the bottom of the wing, out at the wing tips, and up by the wing root, and probably actually on the wing spar. Those would be the heaviest. Okay, so I have half of a stab done. It's easier for me if I just go and immediately do this side. Then I don't forget how I laid it out and what would happen. Okay, again, I'm always looking for some ideas. Different rivet spacing in terms of compressing the rivets or opening them up or making the rivet lines wider. You get a totally different look. Because this isn't a scale model, we don't have to be exactly prototypical. Next step is just transpose those onto this side, and I'll do that off camera. Now, as usually happens, the second side goes in a lot less time. Now I want to make sure I have exactly what I want here, and I kind of like the way the rivet lines tie in with the ribs. What I want to do is I want to lay out the inking that I'm going to do on the elevators, and again a little trip to the other models, a little trip to the books, and then make a decision. And this is kind of what's nice about having 3 of these sitting here, and plenty of books. I have to come up with some kind of a trim tab, and I'll make a pattern for that. And I'd like to tie in the rivet lines. Then I had probably the same trim tab template on that elevator too. Repeat the whole process of making a template so I have a template for the trailing edge line. That'll be the next step. Okay, when I laid out the elevators, I'm trying to simulate this. I made up a little tab. Of course, these just pick right up, and a piece for the trim tab. And I'll basically go around the edge. But when I get to this spot, I'm left the lines, I'm gonna leave that spot out, and then just see what I did. I put dots down, and all I need to do is connect the dots. It'll be a lot easier to connect the dots than to make up a plywood template there. As long as those little templates give me the dots, that'll be a good simulation. And it should look pretty much like the little pattern that we're working with. Now in this case, it's just as easy. Just connect two dots, let it dry, go to the next line, let it dry, connect dots. As long as you can lay out dots, connecting the dots with a ruler with a little piece of tape. Again, what I do is put a couple pieces of tape on the bottom so that edge sticks up. Very, very important. Let this dry. And I guess I keep the book right by my side here. I guess these are hinge reinforcements. One is squared off and two are pointy. Maybe we can even simulate that. Now see, the only trouble with this, see how these little tails and that, I scraped that with a brand new XL blade. Just let it dry and clip it. It's a little more difficult to get corners when you're connecting the dots, but you can do some pretty realistic stuff without making a lot of templates. Now it's about time that I get the smallest tip of the pen. Now the little tiny ones are good for correcting where two angles come together. You need to have, well, you should have, unless you're a real professional draftsman, and the problem is only a few of us, and I'm not one of them, are professional draftsmen enough. I'll get those corners and angles, but if you have the little microfine, a 00 or a 0, the small pointy tip, you can make corrections to those little, where the two lines come together. You can scrape when it's an over and fill in with a little tiny pen tip. And what I've been doing as I'm bringing these pens online one by one, this is the routine I use. No guarantee that this works, by the way. And I have tried every other thing. The only thing that's a guarantee is send the pens to Bob Martens, and he has some, obviously, because he's a professional draftsman, he has a way of doing this. But this way, with real hot water, you can get most of it. There goes the dead ink right now. That's what I wanted to show. There we go. Most of that, once that's out of the pen tip, you'll hear a little click, 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 click. It's the little check valve. Once that happens, you pretty much, you know you're going to have success. It's just a matter of time. Make the water as hot as possible. Boy, I tried every trick. Years ago, I used to just buy, I get so frustrated, I just buy new pens. Problem is, these pens are so expensive now. Anyway, if you just keep at this for a couple of minutes, you'll get all of the old ink out. There goes the ball. Now, let's see if you can hear that little clicking. Once you hear that clicking, now you know you'll just be able to clean this up and use it. I try to simulate this little, this of course is the trim tab linkage, it's only on the bottom. The trick is to flip this over, all the templating and everything, and get it in a complete mirror image on this side. Now I used a much thicker pen, a 100, to outline the trim tab because that's going to be an accented piece as opposed to the thin lines. And this I just did the outline and filled it in. Now I'm ready to do this piece. And I make this piece a little bit thicker. Just double a line up or use a 100 pen if you don't have two pens. And now I want to get the same trim tab. I'm trying to transpose it over here. And what I found is this is handy for me.